In the isolated village of Blackwood Hollow, a haunting stillness hung in the air, heavy and oppressive. Nestled deep within a dark forest, the village was a relic of forgotten times, where the past seemed to bleed into the present. Whispers of a malevolent spirit haunted the trees, a dark legend that spoke of ancient rituals and the price demanded by a lurking evil. Every full moon, a villager would vanish, and those left behind believed it was a necessary sacrifice to appease the dark entity that prowled the woods. Jake, Mia, Sarah and Tom, a group of adventurous friends seeking an escape from their hectic city lives, were drawn to Blackwood Hollow by tales of its eerie beauty and the allure of its folklore. They arrived on a crisp autumn evening, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and crimson. The village, with its crooked houses and cobblestone streets, seemed charming at first, but an unsettling energy pulsed just beneath the surface. The locals, while polite, regarded the newcomers with wary eyes, as if judging their worthiness to remain among them. Their first night was spent in a quaint inn, its walls adorned with faded photographs and relics from a time long past. As they gathered around a fire pit in the backyard, they shared ghost stories, laughter mingling with the crackle of the flames. But as the moon ascended, casting a silvery glow over the village, an eerie silence enveloped them. The locals had retreated, their voices fading into the night, leaving behind a palpable tension that hung heavy in the air. Mia felt a chill crawl down her spine. "This place is giving me the creeps," she said, shivering despite the warmth of the fire. "Maybe we should call it a night." "Nonsense," Jake replied, the thrill of adventure sparking in his eyes. "We're here to explore. Let's see what this village has to offer." The next morning, driven by curiosity, they ventured into the forest, eager to uncover the mysteries surrounding Blackwood Hollow. They donned their hiking gear and packed some snacks, setting off down a narrow, winding path that disappeared into the thick woods. The sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, creating dappled patterns on the forest floor, but an oppressive quiet loomed, as if the woods were holding its breath. As they trekked deeper into the forest, the trees grew taller, their gnarled branches twisting into unnatural shapes. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and a sense of foreboding settled over them. Hours passed as they wandered, each step leading them further into the heart of darkness. Eventually, they stumbled into a clearing that felt otherworldly. At its center stood an ancient stone altar, covered in moss and surrounded by wilted flowers. The atmosphere was charged, vibrating with a dark energy that sent shivers down their spines. Jake stepped closer, eyes wide with fascination. "This must be where they perform the sacrifices," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Tom, emboldened by the thrill of discovery, stepped forward. "Let's check it out." "No, we shouldn't," Mia cautioned, her voice trembling. "This place feels wrong." But the allure of the unknown proved irresistible. They inspected the altar, discovering remnants of offerings, broken trinkets, rotting flowers, and small, animal bones. The realization struck them like a cold wave. These were not mere tales to frighten children, the sacrifices were real. Suddenly a rustle echoed from the trees, and Jake felt a rush of cold air. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, glancing around nervously. "Maybe it's just an animal," Sarah suggested, though her voice wavered with uncertainty. "Let's go back." Before they could turn, a shadow flitted at the edge of the clearing, and a figure emerged from the darkness, cloaked in an aura of dread. It stood tall, its features obscured by swirling mist. "You trespass on sacred ground," it intoned, its voice a chorus of whispers that sent chills down their spines. Who are you?" Jake stammered, backing away, fear constricting his throat. "I am the guardian of the woods," the figure replied, its form flickering like a flame. "And you have come seeking knowledge that is forbidden." Panic surged through the group, and they turned to flee, but the forest had other plans. The shadows coalesced, blocking their path. Roots sprang from the ground, snaking around their ankles like constricting serpents, pulling them down into the earth. They struggled, but it was no use. The forest was alive, an entity that hungered for their fear. "Run," Tom shouted, but the woods twisted around them, turning into a maze of darkness. They could hear the echoes of the figure's laughter, a sound that sent chills down their spines, mingling with the anguished cries of the lost. The friends fought against the encroaching darkness, desperate to escape. They sprinted through the trees, branches clawing at their clothes and skin, tearing into them as they ran. The whispers grew louder, forming a cacophony of voices that pierced through their minds. Just when they thought they were free, they stumbled back into the clearing, the altar looming ominously before them. The shadowy figure stood there, surrounded by a pulsating aura of despair. "You cannot escape your fate," it hissed, its voice a blend of sorrow and malevolence. "You have been marked by the forest." In a moment of sheer terror, Mia was pulled backward by an unseen force, her screams echoing in the night. Jake lunged toward her, but the figure raised its hand, and the ground beneath him trembled. The earth opened up, and darkness swallowed Mia whole. No, Jake screamed, feeling the weight of despair settle in his chest. "We have to help her." But as they watched, the shadows enveloped Mia, her cries fading into the night. The forest consumed her, leaving behind an echo of her presence, a whisper that hung in the air like a ghost. "Your friend has become one with the darkness," the figure intoned, eyes glinting with a cruel satisfaction. "You will join her soon." Despair washed over the remaining friends as they struggled to comprehend the horror unfolding before them. The shadows seemed to close in tighter, and the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices that begged for release. "Let us go," Sarah screamed, tears streaming down her face. "We didn't mean to intrude." The figure laughed, a sound that resonated through the woods like a funeral bell. "You are already trapped within the forest's grasp. The spirit demands its due." As they stumbled back, fear fueled their movements, but the darkness surrounded them, suffocating in its intensity. They fought against the roots that snaked around their legs, trying to break free. But every effort seemed futile. The forest tightened its grip, pulling them closer to the altar. Just then, Tom spotted a flicker of movement in the shadows. "We need to split up," he shouted. "Maybe we can find a way out." "No," Jake cried, desperate. "We can't leave each other." But the desperation in Tom's eyes spoke volumes. "If we stay together, we'll all be lost." With one last glance at each other, they separated, each of them racing deeper into the dark embrace of the woods. Jake ran, heart pounding in his chest, but the shadows seemed to follow, whispering his name, taunting him with promises of despair. He darted between trees, gasping for breath, until he stumbled into another clearing, breathless and disoriented. The ground was littered with trinkets and bones, remnants of previous offerings. Jake's heart sank as he realized he had found the remnants of those who had come before, their souls trapped in this twisted realm. "Help," a voice called, and he turned to see Sarah, her face pale and haunted, her eyes wide with terror. "I can't find Tom." "Neither can I," Jake shouted, panic rising within him. "We have to regroup." But the woods were alive with darkness, and as they turned to run, a chilling laughter echoed through the trees. The shadowy figure appeared once again, its form shifting like smoke. "You cannot escape," it whispered, its voice echoing with centuries of pain. "The forest demands tribute." With a sudden surge of determination, Jake reached for Sarah's hand, pulling her close. "We need to fight back," he said, desperation coursing through him. "We can't let it win." But as they faced the figure, they realized it had grown stronger, its form coalescing into something more corporeal, more threatening. The whispers morphed into screams, drowning out their thoughts, and the shadows surged forward, clawing at their sanity. "Please," Sarah cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We didn't come here to hurt anyone." The figure paused, its swirling form flickering as if contemplating their plea. "Your presence here has disturbed the balance. The forest demands a price." As the words sunk in, Jake felt a wave of hopelessness wash over him. "What do you want from us?" An offering, it hissed. "A soul to take the place of your friend." In that moment, time seemed to freeze. The weight of their decision pressed down on them, and Jake realized they were caught in a trap of their own making. He could feel the forest's hunger, its insatiable thirst for more souls, and he knew they were running out of time. "I won't let you take anyone else," he shouted, his voice echoing through the clearing. "We'll fight you." But the shadows surged, and the darkness wrapped around them like a vise, squeezing the air from their lungs. The figure advanced, its form solidifying into something grotesque, a reflection of their deepest fears. "Then you will all be consumed," it whispered, a promise laced with malice. In a final act of defiance, Jake pulled Sarah close, and they steeled themselves for the inevitable. They would not succumb to fear, they would face whatever came next together. But as the shadows engulfed them, they were torn apart, their screams echoing into the void. Hours passed in the realm of shadows. Each of them wandered alone, trapped in a nightmare of their own making. The forest became a labyrinth of despair, twisting their memories and feeding off their fear. The air was thick with the cries of the lost, and the whispers of the ancient spirit hung like a shroud, promising darkness and despair. Days turned into weeks. And yet, as the villagers went about their lives, the four friends became a part of the lore news stories woven into the fabric of Blackwood Hollow. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones of the newcomers who had vanished. Their laughter turned to echoes, the echoes that danced in the wind. As the full moon rose high once more, the village prepared for its ritual, unaware of the spirits that roamed the forest, forever entwined with the darkness that lay within. The air grew heavy with anticipation, and the villagers gathered in a solemn procession, torches flickering in the night. They moved toward the clearing, a place where the veil between worlds thinned, where offerings were made to the ancient spirit that demanded tribute. Jake, Mia, Sarah, and Tom felt the pull of the gathering from within the shadows, a call that resonated with their very souls. They watched helplessly as the villagers surrounded the altar, their faces shrouded in masks of resignation. It was a ritual as old as the village itself, steeped in sorrow and fear. The friends realized the villagers were not mere guardians of a dark secret, they were prisoners of it, bound by an unbreakable cycle of sacrifice. As the villagers began to chant, the ancient figure materialized before them, its form shifting and swirling like smoke in the night. The shadows danced, reflecting the fears and memories of those who had been claimed by the forest. The friends felt their own memories intertwining with the villagers, echoes of laughter and sorrow merging into a haunting melody. "Join us," the figure beckoned, its voice a seductive whisper that promised escape from the pain of existence. "Become one with the darkness." "No," Jake shouted, desperation clawing at his throat. "We won't let you take anyone else." But the shadows surged, threatening to consume them once more. The figure's laughter echoed in their minds, and they realized the truth: to resist was to embrace despair, but to surrender would mean becoming part of the very darkness they sought to escape. In that moment of clarity, they understood that the only way to break the cycle was to confront the spirit and the fear that had ensnared them. Drawing on the strength of their friendship, they linked hands, standing united against the darkness. "We are not afraid," Jake declared, his voice steady. "We are more than your offerings. We choose our fate." As they spoke, the air around them crackled with energy, the forest responding to their defiance. The shadows writhed and twisted, battling against their resolve. The figure faltered, its form flickering, as if threatened by the light of their determination. "Your will is strong," it hissed, a mixture of rage and fear echoing through the clearing. "But you cannot escape the darkness that binds you." "We can, and we will," Sarah shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "We will find a way to break this curse." In that moment, a surge of light erupted from their hands, illuminating the clearing with a brilliant glow that pushed back the shadows. The villagers paused, their faces shifting from despair to awe, as they felt the energy of the friends' unity. The ancient spirit recoiled, its form dissolving into wisps of darkness that flickered like dying embers. "You think you can defy me?" it shrieked, its voice a cacophony of anguish. "I am the essence of this forest, the keeper of its secrets." But the friends stood firm, their hearts beating as one, fueled by a shared resolve. The light continued to grow, enveloping them in a protective embrace. "We refuse to be your sacrifices," Jake cried, and the ground beneath them trembled as the power of their defiance resonated through the earth. With a final surge of energy, they thrust their hands forward, and the light exploded outward, sweeping across the clearing like a wave. The villagers, caught in the radiant glow, felt the chains of fear shatter, their spirits awakening from the deep slumber of despair. As the light spread, the ancient spirit howled in fury, its form dissipating like smoke in the wind. The forest trembled, and the darkness began to recede, the oppressive weight lifted from the villagers' hearts. The friends felt the presence of those who had been lost, Mia, Tom, and the souls of countless others who had once been trapped in the forest's grip. In a blinding flash, the clearing transformed. The altar crumbled into dust, and the trees shifted, their gnarled branches unfurling like awakened giants. The once ominous atmosphere lightened, and the moon shone brightly overhead, casting a gentle glow over the now quiet woods. With the spirit vanquished, the villagers looked at one another, a sense of hope rekindling in their hearts. They were free, no longer bound by the dark traditions that had plagued them for generations. The friends stood together, breathing in the fresh air, feeling the weight of the forest's darkness finally lift. "Thank you," an elder villager whispered, tears of gratitude glistening in their eyes. "You have freed us from a curse that has haunted us for too long." Jake and his friends exchanged relieved glances, the bonds of their friendship stronger than ever. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, united by a purpose greater than themselves. As they prepared to leave Blackwood Hollow, the sun began to rise, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. The village, once shrouded in fear, now felt like a place of rebirth. The forest, too, seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, its ancient trees standing tall and proud, no longer hiding dark secrets. With hearts full of hope and determination, Jake, Mia, Sarah, and Tom ventured back toward their lives, forever changed by their experience. The shadows that had once threatened to consume them were now but a memory, a testament to their courage and resilience. As Jake, Mia, Sarah, and Tom walked away from Blackwood Hollow, a sense of relief washed over them. The village behind them, now bathed in the golden light of dawn, seemed to pulse with newfound life. The horrors they had faced in the forest felt like a distant memory, a dark chapter that they had closed for good. But as they reached the edge of the woods, an unsettling feeling crept in, as if the very air around them had shifted. Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through the trees, carrying with it a whisper that sent shivers down their spines. "You think you are free," it echoed, a voice laced with malice that resonated within their minds. The friends paused, exchanging worried glances, their earlier bravado faltering in the face of this new terror. The forest behind them began to darken, shadows twisting and stretching unnaturally, as if the trees themselves were reaching out in desperation. The once familiar path they had walked seemed to shift, branches arching like skeletal hands. It was as if the woods were reluctant to let them go, clinging to the remnants of their fear. "Maybe we should go back," Mia suggested, her voice trembling. "What if we didn't actually defeat it?" Jake shook his head, the weight of dread settling heavily on his shoulders. "We can't go back. We have to keep moving forward." But as they stepped into the clearing that led them away from the village, they felt the presence of something lurking behind them, an energy that pulsed with malevolence, an echo of the darkness they thought they had escaped. The whispers grew louder, merging into a cacophony that gnawed at their sanity. "Please, don't leave us," the voices pleaded, a haunting melody of despair and longing that cut deep into their hearts. The friends turned back, horrified to see the villagers standing at the edge of the woods, their faces contorted in expressions of agony. Their eyes were wide with fear, and they reached out as if trapped in a web of darkness. "No," Tom shouted, panic rising within him. "We can't abandon them." But the friends were frozen in place, caught between their desire to help and the instinct to flee. As they looked closer, the villagers began to shimmer, their forms blurring and shifting as if they were mere illusions. "You've broken the curse for us, but now you carry our burden," one villager whispered, their voice fading into the wind. The realization struck like lightning in their defiance. They had unwittingly absorbed the darkness that had once plagued the villagers. The spirit, though vanquished, had left behind a legacy of fear that now clung to them, a malignant shadow that would follow them wherever they went. With dread sinking in, they turned to leave, but the woods groaned, roots erupting from the ground, ensnaring their feet like chains. The shadows swirled and the whispers grew frantic. "You will never escape. You will join us in our torment." In a final act of desperation, Jake gripped Mia's hand tightly. "We won't let it take us," he cried, summoning every ounce of strength he had. But as they struggled against the encroaching darkness, it became clear that their fight was far from over. The forest seemed to laugh, a deep, rumbling sound that reverberated through the trees. As the shadows closed in, they felt the weight of the villagers' despair settle upon them. The darkness intertwined with their very souls, pulling them down into an abyss from which there would be no return. The forest was alive, and it was hungry. In that final moment, as they were swallowed by the darkness, they realized the horrifying truth: they had not escaped Blackwood Hollow. They had merely become part of its dark legacy, forever entwined with the spirits of those who had come before, bound to the woods that would never forget their names. The whispers echoed through the trees, a haunting reminder that some horrors can never truly be defeated, only passed on to those who dare to trespass in the shadows.